All right, so welcome to eCommerce Australia podcast. We're joined by one of the most prominent e-commerce experts in Australia, actually voted 2023 e-commerce industry person of the year, head of APAC for Searchspring, Kate Massey. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Ryan. It is very good to be here and great job on the podcast so far. I love tuning in.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a good fun and getting some really talented and intelligent people on the podcast. I'm certainly learning a lot each episode as well. So I appreciate the kind words there. How do you actually get voted e-commerce industry person of the year? And are you going to go for back-to-back titles, or are you going to let someone else have a turn?
Well, in 2023, so where we managed to really get the votes behind us is we work with so many incredible brands now, and we have really good relationships with our customers. And so the level of brands that are voting for us and supporting our submissions. But the year just gone, we actually had two of our team then nominated for Rising Star of the Year, and one of the team, Alex Ross, won Rising Star of the Year as well. So, yeah, great to see the team now being recognised for what we're doing as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And as a good leader, always sort of shining lights on those around you, which is great. Was that award given out at Retail Fest?
It sure was, yeah,
Yeah.
on pre-night one. So we definitely went on a big high going into the conference, and just the year just gone, we actually won Solution Provider of the Year as well, which is insane. It wasn't expecting to take out the big award, but yeah, really testament to the work that we've been doing, the results that we're helping clients get, and just how we're just going about it as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that was my very first retail fest that I attended, and I walked in not really knowing what the awards night was, but I did see Searchspring everywhere, and yeah, seeing that Alex got an award, and she's quite prominent on LinkedIn and does some good content as well, so worth a follow and one to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. Retail Fest is definitely one of the faves. Great fun, good people, good conversations.
Yeah, and great location,
Totally.
especially when you're coming into a Melbourne winter. But before we get talking about e-commerce and Searchspring, and as I mentioned before we press record, you've had quite the life thus far. You've completed the Kokoda Trail, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, New York Marathon, Larapinta Trail, just to name a few, as well as sort of your, obviously there's a passion around championing the Cure Cancer Australia Foundation. You've done a lot. You're pretty busy.
Yes, never a dull moment in my world, that's for sure. I think
What?
with all of those challenges, what's been really valuable is just building that resilience, right? Because starting up as first boots on the ground for Searchspring, setting up a region and taking Searchspring from being relatively very unknown with no profile, no kind of lead generation, only a very small base of customers, like it's taken a lot of work. And so I know everyone sees all the fun and exciting things on LinkedIn and all the wins that we're having, but behind the scenes, like it's been a lot of grunt work, and so that resilience from those challenges has certainly paid off.
Yeah, fantastic. What was the first 12 months like then for you, if we want to touch on that kind
Yeah,
of like the early days? Like, how hard was that first 12 months to kind of get things off the ground in Australia?
yeah, absolutely. Well, we were coming off like the first wave of COVID, so it was basically uh, you've got a phone, go get yourself a laptop, and off you go. So I would say it's so rewarding. Every year has been very different, and every year has been very rewarding. And what we focused on in year one was really like winning great brands, using that to win more great brands, really taking care of our customers and having those really solid relationships and learning what was important for them and what was going to move the needle. And then coming off like having a very like lean budget in region. So who was who in the e-commerce industry and going to every event
Yep.
possible and meeting lots of people and connecting. And I'd say also being really genuine, right? Like,
Yep.
so uh, we built really great relationships with the partner community, like the tech partners. Like in those days, Rad was first boots on the ground for Yotpo, and Rob for Klaviyo, and yeah, the relationships that we had, and just starting to do events together, and yeah, we built a really cool ecom community. So it was hard work. We worked around the clock, but super special.
Yeah, yeah, good on you. Was it just was there a lot of cold calls and like were you just trying to get a hold of founders and social DMs, or like how did you kind of generate those first few appointments, or did Searchspring have a good enough name that could enable you to sort of get some conversations started fairly
Searchspring
easily?
was virtually unknown back then in region, right? So we've
Yeah,
gone from being virtually unknown to being part of that preferred e-commerce tech stack. And so absolutely it was lots of like build some lists. What brands do we all know and love that we wanted to go after? And what brands did we have that we could turn into those case studies? And when we won those brands, how do we share those win stories? And
yeah,
then that just allowed us to win the next biggest brand or the next well-known brand, and we just kept stepping up from there. So lots of LinkedIn messages, lots of emails, lots of calls, lots of hey partner over here, I see you're working with this brand, we'd love an introduction. And yeah, we definitely did the hard yards, but we're still doing that today, right? So we're still a brand will know if they are on our hit list. We closed a brand at the end of last month that we have been chasing down for a few years. And they said, wow, you guys are everywhere. Your marketing budget must be so big. I'm like, no, we're just showing up everywhere you are to work with you. We know we can add some value. So, yeah, we're still doing that today. It would be unusual for a brand that's on our hit list to not know that they're on our hit list.
yeah, yeah, exactly. No, that's good. And what was that brand? Can I ask that question, or is that still confidential?
No, that was Guess.
Okay. Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Nice.
But we've won several brands recently that, yeah, we've wanted for a long time. And in fact, yesterday, we closed a high-profile fashion brand. Can't name who because they still need to inform their vendors, but one we've really wanted for a long time and haven't been able to open that door. And then someone has gone there that has worked with us now across three other brands, right? From Zimmerman to Van Roy to Camilla and Mark. And so, yeah, it's super exciting to now have customers that are taking us from brand to brand. And in
Yeah.
May, 60% of our new business was from customers that have worked with us that are moving to new brands and didn't want to step away from like all of the benefits and automation and optimizations they can get with Searchspring and going back to do it the way that like the manual or the time consuming way, which everyone's running really lean at the moment. So how can we step into the tech to do a lot more automation and heavy lifting?
Yeah, fantastic. And was that how Caliber come on board too? I noticed that you guys recently sort of rolled out, or they rolled out some new tech initiatives, and Searchspring was included in that.
Absolutely. Congrats, Dom, who just went live yesterday. So super excited for Caliber, like a really great brand, one we've wanted for a long time. Again, harder to kind of open that door. Dom was at Targetmist IMGA, had really lent into the tech and saw like how to grow conversions and AOV using SearchSpring and how to really get the tech working across having multiple brands to manage. So we were very excited to see when she went to Caliber, and so we could welcome them on board as well. So really successful launch and looking forward to seeing the results of that.
Nice. Well, let's before we get into more e-commerce brands, I want to get to know you in a little bit. So just do some quick fire questions before we get too much into the e-com conversation. I feel like you're very good at deflecting to your team and everything else. So let's try and nail down some of these questions. Favorite food?
Well, I don't really have favorites, so I like to fill my life with lots of different things. But I took a look at my Uber Eats app, and it would tell you that it was Kings of Kebab Lane Cove.
Kings of kebab.
Yes, not the picture of good health over here.
What sort of kebab do you go? The garlic sauce or the lamb or what?
Chili and tomato mixed, notably.
Ah, I'm getting hungry. All right. Well, if you don't have favorites, I'll just ask instead of favorite holiday destination, have you got a your next holiday destination planned?
I don't have one set in stone, but my partner is trying to convince me for Tulum again. In December of last year, I had my 40th in Tulum and met a wonderful man and fell in love. So that's probably a special destination that we'll keep going back to.
Oh, good on you. That's awesome. Whereabouts is that?
Tulum, Mexico. So just a
Okay.
couple of hours down from Cancun.
Oh, fantastic.
Beautiful part of the world.
Oh, nice. That's a good story.
Got lots of
Uh,
stories.
Have you got a life motto or like a phrase that you kind of live by, or that helps you on those tough days?
I think what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So definitely going into that resilience piece, I think that's been our real superpower and played a really important part of what we've been building in Regen.
Yeah, awesome. What's on your Spotify at the moment? What are you listening to?
Well, yesterday it was definitely the e-commerce Australia podcast as I was doing my homework, but really I go with like vibes. So is it Sunday afternoon chill or poolside hits? So yeah, pick what mood I'm in for and then let Spotify decide for me.
Very good. Have you got a favorite concert? Is there a best concert you've been to?
Oh, best concert. Can I say the Justin Bieber concert?
You can. There'll be plenty of people judging you, but you
Judge
know,
me.
probably you connect with the young kids when you say that. But no, he's mate. Yeah, there's a place. That's what music. That's why music's so good, right? There's a taste for everyone.
That's right.
Uh,
I haven't been to a Swift concert, but it definitely seems to be all the rage at the moment.
exactly. Last book read.
Shoe Dog,
Okay, how'd you
very
find
good
it?
read. Yeah, very, very good read.
Yeah, really good, isn't it? It's an easy one to read and it's pretty
Easy
fascinating.
holiday read, yeah.
Yeah, and favorite movie.
Oldie but a goodie, Dirty Dancing. I actually
Okay.
fall asleep at movies all of the time, so I don't really watch movies.
It's hard, isn't it? No, I can see that by the amount, the amount that you're doing both professionally and personally with everything that you're doing away from that. So, all right, enough of that. Let's get back to some e-commerce chat now that we know a little bit more about you. So we mentioned, you're partnering with a lot of different retailers and e-commerce brands, but how specifically does Searchspring help e-commerce brands?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk Searchspring as a platform. And I think first and foremost is we've built tech for e-commerce and digital teams, right? To be able to run and better manage their day. So how can they gain control over product discoverability and personalization at scale? And I think one of the key call outs we receive at the moment on our demos is like it looks really user friendly because it's all well and good having really cool tech that can do really cool things, but if you can't use it or the person that uses it moves from one brand to another brand and someone new comes in and can't use that tech, then it's really hard. And that's why we see a lot of tech swap outs is not having tech that is really user friendly, and particularly at the moment teams are running so lean, right? So how can we really lean into Searchspring to automate and optimize but without losing those brand controls as well? So really what we're looking to do is what's going to move the needle on growing conversions and growing average order values. And so we know that shoppers use search convert at a much higher rate, right? So in fashion apparel, usually it's 6 to 11% use search, but convert at like 16 to 34% of revenue. That number goes up as a percentage of revenue for furniture and homewares and even more for health and beauty, right?
Okay.
And so it's really important to make sure that the experience is performing really well from a search relevancy. And brands typically know if their search is not optimized and is returning irrelevant results. And I always encourage brands to go and test their top search terms, right? Are the right products coming up? Are those high margin, best sellers, top rated products with good stock availability and good size curve availability taking up that core real estate at the top of the page? And it's often not the case, right? And then we get into merchandising. So when we start to look at merchandising, so talking about right product, right shopper, right time. So are we personalizing that merchandising experience based on what a shopper's brand preferences are, product type preferences are when they come to site? Are we calling out what is those top sellers, those new products, last chance, almost gone? How are we using that badging to encourage that purchase behavior? And then how do we get more granular, right? So if we're selling into international markets, how are we adapting that for product trends and seasonality? And then even at a state-based level in Australia, a Victoria shopper is very different to a Queensland shopper, right? So again,
Yeah.
how can we really personalize that based on those different trends and product types that are going to resonate with a real lens again on what is going to convert and how can we really lean into the data? So how can we A/B test all of these different merchandising strategies to really trust what we're doing is what's going to perform the best and how can we gravitate towards that?
Yeah.
And then the last kind of piece of the puzzle there is that personalization piece, right? So we're talking about personalized search and personalized merchandising, but then really starting to think about those product recommendations and how are we going to make sure that they're hyper relevant based on what am I looking at? What have other shoppers done? What is that product data to find those similarities in products to really look at what's going to actually convert from a cross sell, upsell perspective, making sure we've got smart recommendations across the site, including at that mini cart level, and then being able to take it one step further and pushing those personalized product recommendations into those email flows as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, really getting kind of granular and really leaning into what is going to work.
Yeah, fantastic. There's a lot there to unpack. But just for clarity for those that might not be aware, so when you're talking about search, you're not talking about organic search from Google, you're talking about internal search from their website.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, and then what percentage of people actually use that search functionality when they come to a website? Do you know that?
Yeah, so that's at 6 to 11% for fashion brands, and that
Yep.
goes up. So for furniture and homewares brands, it's even higher. It goes into that 30 to 45%, and then health and beauty goes up again. And we've got all these benchmark studies to say, like, how much traffic is using search, how much revenue, and then what's the different percentages in terms of like conversions with search and conversions without, and knowing that those shoppers those motivated shoppers that are using search and they know what they're looking for.
Yeah,
If they
fantastic.
can find the right products for them that they're looking for, and that's where merchandising and relevancy of results comes into play.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, just like echoing there something. Have you? What's going on with that?
Hello, is it better?
Go now?
Is that better?
Uh, yeah, I think that's better. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. All right, sweet. I'm back. Um, yeah, nice. And so when people do use that search functionality, then, so to go another layer deeper, when they're using that search functionality, how much more likely are they to convert as opposed to not using it?
Yeah, so 4, 5, 6, 9%, 12%. It really depends on the brand. But we're definitely seeing like much higher conversions for those brands that are having that really strong search experience.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And so when people using Searchspring and that sort of functionality there, what sort of decisions can they make from understanding the internal search terms that the data pulls through from Searchspring?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think understanding how your shoppers are actually searching on site is really important, right? So making sure that those shoppers that are searching in a way are finding the right product. So things like error tolerance, right? So we have spell correction based on your product catalog and your product data, not just on a dictionary. So if shoppers are misspelling words, they're automatically being redirected. If they're using different words, so if they're using slim versus skinny, setting up all of those synonyms and not relying on the shopper to know your exact naming convention to being able to do that. So when you understand how your shoppers are searching, that's when you can really start to optimize those experiences for those shoppers as well.
Yeah, interesting. So they'll get like they can get they'll be like a live dashboard, or they'll see like on a daily or weekly or monthly level how many searches are spelling their name incorrectly or searching for different sort of terms, and then they can start to tweak the messaging in that.
100%, and the relevancy of results returning.
Okay, awesome. And so, we mentioned around improving search capability leading to higher AOV. Have you got any case studies or examples that might help the listeners who haven't sort of used Searchspring or considering it or not yet aware of you guys, which I'm sure that there's not too many of them, but yeah, have you got any case studies to kind of like uh, help explain how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got lots of really great case studies on our website, but really, like when it comes to growing AOV, it's really looking at like making sure we're promoting those top performing higher price point products to the top of the results. Rip Curl does this in a really great way, right?
Yeah.
If you go on the Rip Curl website and search for wetsuits, then all of their full price, best selling high price point wetsuits come up at the top of the results. If you currently change that to most popular, so those best sellers, they're on sale, lower value, and wetsuit accessories like wetsuit tops will come up at the top of the results. So if we had no merchandising logic coming into play, those lower value items would be coming to the top. And then from a Age Athletica, for example, added their accessories range into their mini cart, saw their AOV grow by 15%. So we've got lots of brands where we've got demonstrable case studies that they can do. Also, I might touch on one of our recent acquisitions. So late last year, we acquired one of the UK retail tech top 10 startups. And so that was a company called Increasingly, which is very much predictive AI product bundling. So what is shoppers like frequently purchasing together? And we typically say if shoppers are buying more than 1.3 items per transaction, then they're finding products to purchase together. So how do we take the friction out of that experience? So showcasing those predictive AI product bundles on the PDP with the quick ability to add with that color, size, and quantity variance straight from the PDP to bag, taking that friction out, real play on growing the AOV, and seeing brands like Macpac increasing their AOV by 15%.
Yeah, that's awesome. So increasingly, then we'll use AI and personalization and start to learn what products go well together and then create a bundle, or does the
Yeah.
retailer or the e-commerce manager have to set up those bundles themselves?
Best of both worlds. So you can
Yeah.
fully lean into the tech and just let it elevate those top performing products together. You can get more granular and start to say, if I'm looking at this seed product, so Macpac's example, if I'm looking at this down jacket, how do we then start to always recommend a fleece and a long sleeve top? Or you can get super granular and say, if I'm looking at this high price point product, always show this product and always show this product. So you can set rules-based logic, or you can just fully lean into the tech and just showcase products that other shoppers are purchasing together.
Okay, awesome. And so that we're talking about that at the PDP level, but does that also apply to cart and post-purchase checkout as well?
Yeah, so at that cart level, so we would typically see a mini cart cross-sell profile that we'll be powering based on what other shoppers are doing from a cross-sell perspective. And then on the emails, we've got 9 different recommendation profiles. So just selecting is it personalized to the shopper? What have they purchased? What have other shoppers gone on to purchase? Is it cross-sell? Is it showcasing similar products? And it really depends on the brand and the retailer. What are they selling and what makes most sense, and the frequency of repurchasing different products.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. That's it sounds incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. There's a lot to it, but we try and make it as simple as possible.
Yeah, yeah, spot on. Um, so had a question here around sort of standard Shopify search functionality versus Searchspring. Um, Obviously, I've probably 80% of our listeners are on Shopify at the moment, as that's just a sort of random guess, but I'm going to go with it. And they may be using just the standard Shopify search functionality. I guess you've sort of answered this question, but why would they move to Searchspring?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, kudos to Shopify for enhancing the core functionality for their big base of clients, right? Super important. I think when choosing search showing, it's really about brands looking to gain full control over their product discoverability and really lean in from a what's actually tested and being able to A/B test what is actually going to move the needle. I think with Shopify, it's if you have a solution, a product where it's a one size fits all, right? So all shoppers look the same, and therefore, if you're elevating all the same products, that's going to lead to conversions. But with Searchspring, how are we going to be able to personalize the discovery piece based on that right product, right shopper, right time? So if your shoppers are different, making sure what is the shopper looking at, and then showcasing the most relevant product for them based on that other shopper behavior that are similar profiles to them as well. So having full personalization capabilities, being able to schedule kind of merchandising ahead of these peak times. We're rapidly racing towards Black Friday, Cyber Monday right now. So how can we schedule and optimize all of that merchandising, set up all of those badging logics, being able to have full control over tweaking those, the merchandising strategies in the lead up, and then really having hyper relevant personalized product recommendations that make sense across the site. So yes, it's great. Shopify, fantastic for those emerging brands that are very focused on growing their customer base to buy more product, to grow their customer base. And when they get to that tipping point that they're ready for a solution like Searchspring, to really then dive in to grow conversions and the AOV.
Yeah, fantastic. And just on that point around the tipping point, so is there, typically what is the Search Spring customer? Is there a trigger that kind of goes that is there something that's happening in that e-commerce team that triggers them to get in touch with you guys? What sort of brand size is best suited for Search Spring?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the tipping point would be they're running lean, they're looking for more automation and optimization, they're managing potentially multiple domains or multiple brands, and they're not converting at what an average site converts at only 2.5%, right? Like
Yeah,
that is a huge opportunity for improvement. We work with brands, like we're talking with brands every week that are even less than 2.5%, right? So there's a lot of wastage that goes on in e-commerce, right? So brands that know that their search relevancy is poor or their product recommendations are not generating the returns that they should be, like those are really those tipping points. How our pricing model works is we go on annual web sessions, parent product SKUs, and number of domains. So the beautiful thing there is we can work with those emerging brands and then scale right all the way up to those leading brands to help brands get started earlier. If they're really small, like typically less than that kind of 2 mil turnover, that's when they're really still investing in growing their customer and building their customer acquisition. Post that kind of 2 mil, that's when they start to get more serious about like, okay, how can we really make sure that this traffic we're driving to site, we give that best chance of converting?
yeah, yeah, awesome. That makes a lot of sense. And even just thinking about sort of the year and talking with Geordie Heiss on Shopify,
Yeah.
who was on my last episode, just around sort of unification and personalization and how do we protect ourselves from the Temus and the Shines of the world. Well, this is
Yes.
a great way to do that, is to actually understand what people are searching for, personalize their experience, make it really nice and seamless, and actually genuinely care about their experience and their user journey. And yeah, obviously, you've got statistics to back up the increase in AOV and conversion rate.
Absolutely.
You also mentioned Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We got Singles Day, Christmas. All that's coming up far too quickly. How quickly does it take to get Searchspring up and running on their platform? And does it need a couple of months of data to start to kind of really work its magic? Or I'm just trying to put myself in a position, if we're listening to this episode and they want to get started, how quickly can they get up and running?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the time is now and rapidly running out from a Black Friday, Cyber Monday. But once we pass Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we start thinking about like that holiday trade and what's next and what's next and what's next, as you mentioned. So typically an implementation is between 8 and 12 weeks, depending on the platform and the complexity and the size of the organization. And in terms of like getting started, I think the number one thing is always like go and do a stock take. How are your search results performing for those top searches? How's your merchandising? Is it scalable right now? And if you go on your top products or your top categories, do your product recommendations actually make sense? And those are really the ones where you go, okay, can I afford to leave it any longer and keep putting this off, or is now the time to invest now?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I guess if you are running lean and you're so busy, it's sort of sometimes hard to look at that subjectively when there's so much to do. But it's probably a good time just to block off a couple of hours and go through that UX, or get a few people, a few friends or family to kind of go through it and just try and get as uh, what am I trying to say? Trying to get like it as uh, I've lost my
Side
words.
side of view.
That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
exactly. I
yeah.
think well we actually do that like every week we're doing website reviews for brands, right? And so we're happy to do that heavy lifting and do those audits and say where is the low-hanging fruit? What is going to move the needle for you as well?
Okay, yep. So you'll do, as part of that process, you can even do a quick audit for them and kind of highlight some areas where you guys could help.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. And what are your thoughts on Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Like, you obviously speak to a lot of retailers. You've definitely got your finger on the pulse around that. Um, Retailers sort of gearing up for another big holiday season. Yeah, what are your general thoughts around e-commerce in the second half of 24?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are going to see great sales coming through on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I think the strategies people should be looking at right now is really how to grow the average order value on that Black Friday, making sure they're building those databases and make sure they have those ongoing kind of email nurture pieces to keep driving that traffic back to site with those personalized recommendations that make sense. I think. We've got conditioned for discounting. We saw that with end of financial year sales. We saw that with Prime Day. We've got Afterpay Day sale, which is giving another bump at the moment for retailers. So definitely we're being conditioned. But I think it's a great opportunity to use things like inline banners to drive traffic back to the new arrivals collection or those best-selling collections which aren't discounted or aren't discounted as much, and making sure we're showcasing things like the accessories range to keep growing those AOV on those like full price but lower price point products as well. And I think those are the things that people should be looking at right now. We know that it's going to be competitive, probably even more competitive to get that share of wallet this year. But I do think, yeah, the retailers are leaning in and getting prepared right now. We're the ones that have potentially another record, right? Or at least on par with last year.
Yeah, that's some great thoughts and ideas around that, and I would add to that. Just I find throughout this year the retailers that are doing those one percenters right are
Hmm.
really doing well, but the ones that have traditionally sort of relied on what worked in the past and are finding it hard to sort of get that mentality and move away from that are probably struggling. So I feel like SEO, I'm obviously going to mention SEO because that's what I do, but also organic social is actually getting good cut through now, and it's really important to care about your customers, and just those little touch points just add, they just make that congruency. So if they come on your website, they're using Searchspring, they have a really good experience. They can, see that there's product bundles there, that the consumer journey sort of been taken into consideration, and they check out your socials and they see that you're actively engaging on your social media, you're an active participant there, and all those touch points kind of work to help build a successful e-commerce brand. But if you're not doing some of those things that can be hard to track, then it may be a tough, end to the year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why I'm so excited by our latest acquisition of Intelligent Reach, actually. So, I'm diving into the world of Intelligent Reach, and it's got me really excited. So, by the potential. So, a lot of people know Intelligent Reach being the data feed specialists, right?
Yep.
So, how can we optimize data to push those data feeds into those different channels? So, whether that be marketplaces or those digital sales channels, so like Google Shopping and Meta and retargeting. Um, so, yes, fundamentally, that's what Intelligent Reach does. But the true potential of Intelligent Reach is how to really lean in to optimize these data for those individual feeds across product types, across titles, and then how can we start running A/B tests and experiments to really see what is going to perform better, right? So, from testing product titles and product types and product images, what's actually going to provide more impressions, better clicks, lower the cost per click, which, as we know, the cost of advertising is going up right now. So, how can we really lean into the data and see what's going to move the needle for all of these things, and what's going to give us that better kind of visibility and performance of these products, particularly like when we talk about Google Shopping, how do we get that top real estate when we're doing those brand searches or doing those product searches, to make sure that like our products are the ones that are being showcased at the top of these results. And so, and we spoke recently about that. Well, if traffic on site is only converting at an average of 2.5, then if we're spending all this money to drive this poor quality traffic, how can we address driving better quality traffic at a lower cost and then really fix that on-site experience? And that's really going to see that improvement again in what's going to move that needle on that conversion rate.
Yeah, so how does intelligent reach do that? Like, is that sort of, again, I would assume that's sort of AI and server side tracking to sort of help attribution and how and kind of like understand how the data's pulling through and being able to track that a bit more intelligently. Is that right? Or
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we also have like data specialists, right, that are familiar with these platforms. So we know that Google has a requirement for how it actually like wants that data being passed through, right? And so
yeah,
how can we then test? We use the example previously of if we've got skinny in our product titles, let's test slim and let's actually see which is going to perform the best out of those different search terms. And so yeah, how do we really start to optimize what data we're passing through to really raise that visibility? And one thing that's really interesting is when you've got a bestseller, it can sometimes be easy to keep getting that bestseller selling more, right? But what about those low performing products or those products with really low visibility? How do we have different campaigns running for those so we can really start to elevate the performance of those other products and improve that as well?
yeah. So like products that aren't getting the clicks. Obviously, you've got a finite budget, and Google are optimizing based on what's getting the most clicks and
Mm,
sending your budget that way.
mm.
But you're saying with intelligent reach, there can also help to learn how to get those products that aren't performing to get them, or to use a certain set of data that maybe get them to perform a little bit better and get more clicks.
Exactly. And data, 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 leaning into the data and running those tests to really see what's going to perform the best.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah, look, I appreciate your insights into Searchspring. I've certainly a lot more educated on how things work, and yeah, the recent acquisition's really important as well, and really interesting to note. So, thanks for sharing some of your wisdom and knowledge with the e-commerce Australia podcast audience. If they're wanting to get started with Searchspring or want to get in touch with yourself, is it the best way to connect on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll always get a reply if you connect with me on LinkedIn. It's also really easy to kind of jump on a website, book a demo, that will come through as well. But yeah, reach out. We'd love to continue the conversation. We're super passionate about like how can we help brands be successful, right? And so I think one of the things that's really special about Searchspring is how much our team cares, and that's what kind of fuels what we're doing. So thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I really enjoyed the chat as well.
No, fantastic. Yeah, it's good to actually talk to you. I consume a lot of your content, and
Yeah,
I've been at a couple of events, but I've missed you unfortunately. But we'll definitely catch up on the next one. And yeah, looking forward to watching Searchspring and not only yourself, but all the stars that you're kind of raising there and leading through to the next generation. I'm looking forward to watching the story unfold further.
for sure. We're not slowing down, that's for sure.
Exactly. Thank you.
Have a great one.
Cheers.